So I wanted to share a little bit about the retreat that Marriott and I are on in India, in Tamil Nadu, in a town known as Tiruvannamalai. And we're walking on the sacred mountain Arunachala, which is considered to be one of the seats of Lord Shiva, and the backdrop of Ramana ashram, where we're spending most of our time. And here I'll give you a view of Tiruvannamalai and the great Shiva temple in the center. We're overlooking that. And it's been a very beautiful retreat with lots of sitting and sharing and a chance to reconnect with the essential nature that exists inside, and the ability to kind of take another look at life from a deeper or more simple perspective. And what's been coming up on the retreat, and that resonates with what we do in the dojo and in Aikido, is the recognition of that emptiness or ground of limitless being that arises when all things are for a moment relinquished or let go. And that ground of being supports everything else that we see and experience. It is fundamentally that place which is free of any object or any reactivity or any separation. It's just the sense of that which is there before everything arises. And the other aspect, and that's in Indian terminology, can be directly related to Shiva, which is the god of non-existence or death. And on the other end is the fullness of life, the plenitude of change, and the flow of activity all around us. And that's, as you can hear from the city below, that's a very constant quality of life in India. And in Indians can refer to that as Shakti, or the movement of life itself. And the differentiation, the different qualities, the different aspects of how we express ourselves, the uniqueness of ourselves, the differences between us. And that Shakti is literally translated as energy, has a relationship with Shiva. There's a dynamic relationship between Shiva and Shakti, and the Indians consider that to be the interplay between the limitless and absolute nature of being and its expression and fullness that is experienced in life. And this, for me, directly relates to what O-sensei was referring to as the bridge between heaven and earth, and Shiva being that emptiness and peace and divine nature of oneness, and Shakti being that life of ever-moving change and dynamic interplay, and where Shiva is heaven and Shakti is earth. And these two different qualities are actually not separate, yet they are experienced in very different ways. And their relation to one another is like two sides of one coin. And that bridge between the emptiness of being and the plenitude of activity is the human consciousness, the human being. And that kind of understanding or that kind of exploration is where I think Osensei was referring to as standing on that bridge between the two. The bridge between emptiness and fullness, between peace and dynamic movement. And this has been a theme of the retreat that has been part of what we've been exploring in meditation, what I've been exploring in meditation, and deeply restorative as the consciousness or the identity that is normally gets involved in the Shakti or in the earth nature of our experience, the dynamic interplay, the conflict and the ups and the downs and the rights and the wrongs, comes back and reconnects or remembers itself in its source, the absolute nature of who we are, that which is always here, the context that supports all the activity, and dissolving and relaxing and reaffirming the source of who we are in that space of freedom. It gives a completely new relationship to the activity around, and in there lies what I would consider to be the dynamic, supportive bridge between peace and the dynamic interplay between up and down, the yin and yang of life, where we find the essential nature of conflict is part of that movement. So between peace and conflict, there's a bridge. And that bridge is actually, from my personal experience, seemed to be made up the content of love, and the bridge of compassion, a sense of acceptance, and a fundamental being. And this, in my experience, is the birth of what we do in the dojos, the practice of Aikido. And that practice of Aikido is essentially the expression of that bridge between oneness and differentiation, the oneness and two-ness. And that's why it's so unique in what it is. It doesn't live in the world of two-ness. It's not about becoming a bigger and better fighter, but it's about being a bridge between that realization of that peace that lies within and that peace that connects all of life, that unity that exists between all of life, that contains all of life, and the conflict that can come up in the midst of the energetic movement of life. And bringing these two perspectives together is what I think is referred to as the relationship between Shiva and Shakti in yogic terms or Indian terms, and what Osensei refers to as being on the bridge between heaven and earth. Well, I just wanted to send a little energy out from our retreat and give a little taste of what we've been exploring, and I hope that what I'm sharing makes sense, but whatever the case, thanks for listening.